Now, radio. Because they get it, they get it.
They twist on it. They just twist it all around. Bad. Look out the extremists. There's a bad stigma.
3 percenters. Tell us about the 3 percenters for that. Yeah, that was Mike Vanderbilt, I believe, back in 2008. And he had been an ex-communist, actually, back in the 60s. He was young and dumb. He had been a communist. But thankfully, he was rescued from that idiocy by a guy he worked with who taught him about American history at the time. And so Mike became a very strong anti-communist. And also, you know, the real people's scientists, too. Exactly. And also a very strong anti-racist who would make fun of white nationalists and neo-Nazis to no end. And one of his core planks of being a 3 percenter is you respect the Constitution and the rights of all Americans regardless of race. That's why it's so particularly disgusting to have the left try to paint 3 percenters, or other people, I'm a 3 percenter myself, to try to paint us as being white nationalists. That's their only strategy. That's their core strategy, is to use identity politics and divide people on the racial lines and condemn this country as inherently evil and racist. But unfortunately, it's working. So Mike fought against that. I wish he was still around, frankly. So what Mike did, which I think was kind of smart, is that he didn't found an official organization. He just put it out there as a concept. And so you wind up with lots of independent groups, like Matt's, that are all over the place and hard. That's what you've done. That's what Infowars has done. It's an idea. Right. So it's hard to crush a concept, an idea like that. So, you know, hats off to Mike Vanderbilt, who's now passed away. It lives on exactly through guys like that. Beautiful. We're going to break. We're going to get into some of those questions, specifics of this, what's unfolding.
Yeah.
What should I do today? Make a snack or work out?
There are several different chapters throughout the country. The media will paint most groups as anti-government. It's not anti-government, it's anti-tyrannical government. I mean, initially I say, look, yeah, I'm all right. I mean, all right to me would be a conservative, maybe a white or black Christian conservative that has strong convictions about upholding and defending the Constitution from all enemies, foreign and domestic. And if there's one thing that we can't have in the United States of America, is a disarmed populace. I got to be prepared quick if I get some information that says there's a martial law, there's a nuclear attack, there's a chemical, biological situation. I'm getting prepared for anything short of a nuclear bomb landing on my forehead and killing me. I want to survive it. At knife point or gun point. But I think Islam is terroristic in nature, and it's good and evil. That's what it basically comes down to.
I pray to God every day that I do not have to use these skills for any reason. But I'm also preparing my daughter over there in case it happens.
Well, this is Tony Sheena, owner of Mosaic Security, a private military company that provides elite forces level security for their clients. Tony has a VIP coming into Caracas tomorrow who will need to guard. We tagged along as he scouted out a particularly dangerous neighborhood that we'll need to pass through in the morning. It's called the Triple X Barrier.
The main issue with this client is we need to pick him up at Point A, the airport, and deliver him to ECE at the military installation. But there's no circumventing this. These guys should be flanking on the side. Okay, he's already seen a potential shooter.
Considering the police claim 25 people are shot in this barrier a day, the armed person they spotted is not taken lightly.
Wrong place to be. Pull out, guys. Okay, go.
We took a little detour for an additional route out of the main road because it was too dangerous. Although we were able to get out without incident, it was clear that tomorrow's security was going to need to be very serious. We're at an airport about to extract a client. So the idea is we've got to get him from here to go to meet a government contract. There's been a number of attempts on his life, so tensions are running a little bit high. Everybody recover, recover, recover. There's been 2 or 3 attempts in the life. Two. You just need to be careful and act accordingly. For the business that you work in, you wouldn't be able to operate without these guys taking advantage. No, I wouldn't feel safe. It is like having a top private army. Because not only is the quantity, but they are quality. I'm in a little war. And when I land in this country, I'm a war. And that's why you need to use these good bad guys. While providing highly trained security for VIPs like Pablo is one role PMCs play, it's really just the tip of the iceberg. In fact, the international private military industry has been exploding over the last 20 years. To find out more about this new modern world of mercenaries, we spoke to P.W. Singh, author of the book Corporate Warriors, The Rise of the Privatized Military Industry. A private military company, a PMC, is private companies taking on roles that have traditionally been done by the military and intelligence agencies, by the broader national security complex. We have this assumption of war and who fights it. A man in uniform. And that uniform to us means, well, they're part of a national military. And when you look at the 21st century, that image in our mind, it just doesn't hold true. These companies have taken on all the different roles of war, everything from the back-end logistics to training and consulting to the tactical battlefield roles. Pretty much it's the new American way of war. Whether you're talking about Iraq or now Afghanistan, roughly half of the force there is private military. In fact, business is so good that the global market for private security services is projected to reach $218 billion in 2014. And as more and more aspects of modern war and security are outsourced to PMCs, these companies are poised to grow even larger. Outsourcing is always about cost savings. It's the number of people that you don't have to call up from your National Guard reserves to take on these roles. Deaths, injuries, capture of private military contractors doesn't resonate into the political world the same way it does for someone in the military. So we're seeing everything from companies that have been operating in Iraq now doing things like counter-piracy operations off Somalia to the emergence of Chinese private security companies operating in Africa, or the Russians who use private contractors during their Crimea operation. When we look at the future frontiers of the private military industry, they reflect the next frontiers of war. To find out more about this massive industry that is fast becoming the future of war, we spoke to the man that almost single-handedly created the modern PMC as we know it. We're here in Abu Dhabi and we're going to interview one of the most important people in the PMC world, Eric Prince. He was the founder of Blackwater.
PMCs are as American as Thanksgiving Day. First colonies were started by contractors that were hired to secure those logistics of private companies. Massachusetts Bay and Plymouth colonies were private endeavors. Look, I started Blackwater as a way to stay connected to SEAL teams. When our customers called us, we ran very hard to fill their needs. We were mischaracterized as out of control mercenaries. The fact is, we were American veterans serving America again, getting paid a competitively big contract. Full stop. We did exactly the job the U.S. government hired us to do. We did it well. More than 100,000 missions on the security side. No one under our care ever killed or injured.
For a first-hand look to see what it takes to become a soldier for hire, we traveled to the Czech Republic, to the Anti-Terror Academy, a former military base, which is now one of the most popular security training facilities in Europe. This is where future PMC soldiers are going to be freshening up their skills before they go out and work. In theory, even people like me do these training courses, basically be guns for hire. Make sure you focus on that foresight. Okay. Squeeze in the trigger. Although they're willing to train beginners like me, it was clear that the vast majority of the guys there were former elite military running through combat drills.
How did you get into all of this?
I left the army because the money wasn't good enough for what I was getting paid to do. Why would I do 5 years in Iraq in the army and earn 120 grand when I can do 2 years in Iraq and earn 400 grand? I saw it in my era. Anybody who is any good in the army isn't in the army.
The main goal of a facility like this is to take the elite skills these soldiers already have for offensive combat and reshape them to provide defensive, special forces level security and protection.
The two guys behind, they just push out.
But as I watched them run their drills, it was clear that these maneuvers were much more than just defensive. They aren't only learning to provide additional support for security, they are essentially becoming their own army. Nobody knows more about what it means to have private armies for hire than the world-famous mercenary Simon Mann. After serving in the British Special Forces, he spent over 20 years in the PMC industry until 2004 when he served 5 years in prison in Equatorial Guinea for his role in attempting to help stage a coup.
A private military company, to me, is a company that is prepared to carry out full-on offensive military operations under a contract. You pay us a load of money and we will help you win your war. Where I get worried is when you start saying, no, the way forward is for combat operations to be privatized and given out wholesale to the private sector. There are certain things that armies have to do and a way of doing them that should not be in the private sector. These guys are fighting for money. They're not fighting for the state. They're not fighting out of defense duty or patriotism. When it gets serious is if you get a PMC that starts to get excessively muscular. The line between defense and offense gets very quickly blurred. So immediately, any decent soldiers will start thinking, instead of sitting here waiting to be shot, why don't we go out there and bag the bad guys before they manage to shoot us? And suddenly, the rules start to get bent.
The further you look into the training around the world for PMC, the more you realise that their public face as simply defensive security is only one side to their capabilities.
So we're here to see Mick Cowan. He's a former sniper and he's now a PMC. He's asked us to keep his location secret because he just doesn't want people to know where this is going on. We're going to spend a little bit of time with him to kind of find out what he does, how it all works.
I operate as a consultant for a number of companies, and I step in and provide the actual instructional ability.
Simply put, he trains PMCs to be snipers using the latest military techniques and hardware.
Basically an AR-15 M4 with a red dot sight on it.
And it's not just about shooting accuracy. They also teach you how to blend in with your environment, so your target doesn't even know you exist.
Jed, you gotta be very low and slow. I check back his bottom, and I will ready with the walker.
Okay, is that him in possession again?
Okay, Hunter.
Is there any kind of contracts that come along that you just morally don't agree with?
Yes, certainly there would be jobs that I could see coming along that I go, thanks, but no thanks. But morality is down to the individual and down to the companies themselves. You always get people who are morally repugnant. You always get cowboys.
But it's not only the moral question of who these cowboys might work for that makes many uneasy. For veteran journalist Robert Pelton, who witnessed the rise of the PMC in both Iraq and Afghanistan firsthand, it's a concern about their willingness to blur the lines if it serves their purpose.
It is a myth to assume that contractors are aligned with governments and they synchronize. They actually have a laws. And there are many cases in which contractors were actually arrested by the military in Iraq for doing exactly that, shooting at people, causing a mess.
We're the shape in this car.
It's security, but it doesn't seem like security because it's to keep them secure. If I come up and punch you in the face and I say that's for your protection, that's kind of the joke. You see fences going up, you see guard posts, you see people stopping you, and you say, that's not a police badge. And it's up to the public to decide whether they think the use of force by a non-state actor is appropriate.
In fact, the actions of some PMCs has caused such an alarm that US Congressman Jan Schakowsky has introduced legislation to limit them from use in war zones altogether.
There has been concern about using people who don't wear the badge of the United States of America, who are not part of a chain of command, who aren't held accountable in the same ways. I think what scares me the most about these private military contractors is that by and large they operate in the shadows. The transparency isn't there, the accountability isn't there. It appears that these contractors literally may be able to get away with murder.
When you consider that these companies might operate above the law, even while employed by the US government, the bigger question for New York Times Washington correspondent David Sanger is what happens when PMCs work completely outside the jurisdiction of America itself.
One big concern for private military contractors is a question of allegiance. When they become political instruments to help prop up a government, that's when you begin to ask the question, does this corporation have a foreign policy of its own? And is that corporation's foreign policy in sync or in opposition to American foreign policy? Are they truly American? Are they truly international? Who exactly are they working for?
When the best and the brightest from armies around the world are now working for PMCs, you have to wonder if the next military superpower won't be a country, but a corporation.
I think the PMC of the future can manipulate governments. We're at a stage now that I think it can.
During the 8 years of the Obama presidency, more guns were sold in this country than ever before. Today, we've come here, the largest independently owned gun store in America, to learn about the future of gun Larry, can you just tell me a little bit about the shop?
Sure, my father started back in the mid-50s as a coin shop. Bought a coin collection and had some guns with it. And got it started in gun business.
Was the gun industry strong back then?
Nothing like today. Most gun companies went bankrupt between wars. The history of gun business has been one of the bust.
So looking around, it feels like we're in a boom right now.
Probably one of the biggest moves ever.
How many different gun models do you guys have?
Thousands. Competition, hunting, collecting, doomsday.
Doomsday?
Yes, prep people that think that they have a nuclear attack or some type of pandemic.
They're getting ready.
Yes.
What are the popular guns themselves?
The most popular gun is the AR-15 type, military gun.
Bring it inside the shoulder just a little bit.
Why do you own guns?
It's just like on golf course. Some people go for beers.
Some people shoot AR-15s.
Yeah.
In the past decade, the gun industry has grown by an unprecedented amount. There are now over 130,000 federal licenses issued to sell firearms in America. Compare that to the estimated 14,000 guns nationwide. You have almost 10 times as many potential places to buy a gun as you do a pigment. To accommodate this growth, gun manufacturing has expanded massively. We're at Caltech. This is the largest gun manufacturer in Florida and one of the largest in the country. They're also the only gun manufacturer we contacted who was willing to let us film inside.
Hey, hey,
Really?
Yeah.
good. Nice to meet you.
Sub 2,000. Sub 3,000.
Step on out here. This is
Sure,
our
sure.
warehouse. This is the front half of our CNC shop. We have 3 shifts and we run them pretty much 24/7.
Really? What's your favorite part of your job?
The fact that I make guns. I love guns.
You do. You can do this with his eyes closed at this point, right?
We do about 150,000 guns a year.
Every year the bad order seems to get bigger.
While manufacturing work nationwide has declined drastically since the 80s, the gun industry has actually created more jobs, growing 81% since 2008. What do you attribute this growth in Caltech to?
I think with the political landscape being what it was over the last 8 years, people really needed stuff. You know, they felt like their rights were going to take away, so they needed to get this, that, and the other before they couldn't get them anymore.
The way the gun industry is portrayed by the media, how does the gun industry feel about that?
We feel attacked. You know, and anytime you've got a political landscape that wants to put 260 people out of work, no matter what we're making, that's an attack. A lot of that is perpetuated by the media, the way they cover these, you know, these mass shootings and these terrible things that happen.
So why do gun sales go up after mass shootings?
Every time that happens, the public that owns firearms, they want to get those things before they get banned.
The phenomenon Chad describes actually defined the Obama era.
As a country, we have been through this too many times. We're going to have to come together and take meaningful action to prevent more tragedies like this, regardless of politics.
While Obama was pushing for tougher gun control laws after Sandy Hook, the 3 largest gun makers had a record-breaking $247 million in profits in the years 2009 to 2016, have been referred to as the Barack boom, when 5 of the 10 deadliest mass shootings in recent American history occurred, and gun sales nearly doubled.
It's not even the fact that a particular firearm was used in a shooting, it's the fact that everyone's scared that the government's going to ban that particular gun.
Now, circumstances have fundamentally changed.
The 8-year assault on your Second Amendment freedoms has come to a crashing end.
Donald Trump's win ensured that no gun control laws would be forthcoming, which sent gun sales into a downward spiral.
That was a lie.
Without the fear of gun control,
I just helped this,
firearms industry is missing its
run
greatest
them out.
marketing tool ever. So they're having to innovate. There's no better way to ensure the future security of an industry than appealing to the next generation.
All right, look there.
Roll the dice.
She competes against retired military, active duty law enforcement, border patrol. I get asked all the time, oh my gosh, are you worried when she starts dating? And I go, not at all.
Shooter ready. Stand by.
Last year at the Smith & Wesson Nationals, she placed 4th in the country in freaking rifle. That's big. Excellent. At last year's NRA convention, one of her sponsors advertised appearances at their booth. And I was stunned. I turned around and there was a line of 40.
What should I do today? Make a snack or work out? Email or dance? Definitely dance. Whatever I decide to do, the Intel Core processor makes it all totally doable. Save on select computers powered by Intel.
The adults that were lined up to get her autograph.
2 hours of just signing autographs. That's insane.
Industry-sponsored organizations donate tens of millions of dollars to youth shooting programs every year. Just like the X Games did for skateboarders, these shooting leagues will transform their young participants into branding gold for young businesses.
Alamo Tactical have sponsored 2 pistols for her. They custom built her AR-15.
Blade Tech provide all the magazine holders, gun belts, different holsters. Gun for Hire for the last 3 years running has given her a check for $5,000 a year to help cover expenses.
That's why his logo is
That's
so big.
in a lot of ways, it's like NASCAR. The more you contribute, the bigger you get advertised on the jersey.
Cheyenne and Vanessa don't just shoot competitively. They're also part of an organization co-founded by Cheyenne's Cheyenne, you spoke to the New Jersey Senate when you were 10 years old. About what?
At the time, they were trying to lower magazine limits to 10 rounds. And I was saying how that could potentially hurt my career. And I no longer would be able to do it in that state if they had passed that law.
And what happened?
They didn't pass it, they vetoed it.
In their fight for broader gun laws, these kids have become America's youngest gun lobbyists.
Hey guys, our way, the governor decided to arm them.
Are we going to see the normalization of guns in this country at some level?
I believe that the movement of gun control is almost on life support. I think we have a 4-year window that if we do it right, we could actually put a serious setback on.
The next phase of the gun rights movement has already begun. This year, 2 separate bills were introduced before Congress, which would greatly expand the rights of concealed carriers, effectively erasing many gun-free zones within public schools and government lands. The firearms industry is already in lockstep with this legislation as they accessorize to meet the needs of the concealed carry consumer.
It's a breakaway opening. Everything is hidden under the waist behind. I can just snap my wrist and throw.
I created a concealed carry line of holsters that were practical for women. You wouldn't know it, but I'm actually carrying 3 firearms and a knife.
The name of the jacket is Executive. I'm ready to roll. Pepper spray, fully weighted 9mm shield. Here's a knife. And in here, magazine.
Concealed carry is growing in popularity as more people feel the need to protect themselves everywhere they go. And what they're protecting themselves from can vary greatly. Mohammed Shoaib is a dentist who recently decided to conceal carry.
You ready? About a year and a half ago, I went and got my concealed weapons permit. It's a 357. It'll do its job. It doesn't even have safety on it.
So all you have to do is pull the trigger. I will. Dr. Shoaib got his concealed carry permit because as a Syrian Muslim, he felt increasingly targeted and in danger because of it.
When you walk with your wife in the mall, you can see how people look at her like they just want to come and tear her scarf off. It's bothering them or something.
Is the Muslim community here feeling more targeted?
Very. It's not like all of a sudden you have an influx of white supremacist people. It's like this constant negative rhetoric, infusing them with something. And you never know who's going to switch up on you. That's why I carry it.
Make you feel safer?
No. No. Having it on you makes you think of the worst case scenario more. It's become an environment where nobody is comfortable.
We're standing outside of the Islamic Society of Utah. This mosque was attacked by an arsonist last week, and hate crimes like this have been on the rise since Trump started campaigning 2 years ago.
Yeah, I'm calling with respect to the event on the 23rd and 24th of October. I just wanted to let you know my 5-year shit, and I'm going to fucking personally have a militia that come down to your Islamic Society and firebomb me and shoot whoever did it on the side of the head. I don't care if it's fucking 2 years old, 100. Fuck you, fuck Allah, fuck your stand nigger fucking ass, fuck out of my country. You're going to fucking die.
This is the kind of stuff that everyone deals with. Our work's been going more important by the day, unfortunately. We've had a huge influx of calls for help, especially since Donald Trump started his campaign targeting the American Muslim community. If you take it back to November of 2015, since then, unfortunately, we've documented a 500% increase in anti-Muslim hate crimes. Mosques being torched and burned down. Our own mosque, Asian mosque I go to, I do sermons at sometimes, was arson over this past weekend.
How has the Muslim community in Florida responded to that?
Unfortunately, many of us were pushed to start considering taking serious measures to arm and protect ourselves. If somebody's going to come at you or your family or your house of worship with violent intentions, you need to be ready. Especially on your own sermon. You see somebody walking in, opening fire, what are you going to do? Are you going to have to duck for cover and watch your members getting slaughtered? Or can you whip out your handgun and do what you have to do to keep you safe? And yes, you should.
With so many millions of guns being produced and purchased every year, and only 10 states requiring owners to report when they get lost or stolen, The illegal market for guns in America is huge. An upcoming Harvard and Northeastern University study estimates that 400,000 guns are stolen every year, many of which are sold in the black market. The researchers estimate that these illegal guns get used in as many as 8 out of every 10 gun crimes, primarily in poor urban centers like Chicago, Baltimore, and Detroit.
Yeah.
Yes, man. I've been talking for myself. Where do these guns actually come from?
Young niggas breaking their cars, breaking their houses, getting crackheads, niggas breaking into gun stores, running in them bitches with cars. When niggas might have bought them legally and don't want them no more.
Yeah. Why don't you guys buy guns legally? Why do you have to come here?
Get it easier on the streets, man, without having to go through all that other bullshit.
Are there a lot of people like you?
Well, we got them. I mean, everybody know a nigga looking to buy guns.
For years, the Obama administration pushed for stricter gun control laws with the belief that they would curtail crime. But that era has given way to a different.
The only thing that stops a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun.
It's a belief backed by an industry that values itself at over $50 billion and a president that broke spending records campaigning.
You know, when people can defend themselves and their families, we're all safer.
Everyone should have a gun that's sane, trained, and be able to use it for protection.
I will defend my right to own a gun until they take it from my hands forcibly. I have 1,000 rounds in my closet. I hold 1,000 lives in my closet.
You came through for me, and I am going to come through for you.
The
8-year assault on your Second Amendment.
Smith and Wesson National
have been on the ride.
Now, having it on you makes you think of the worst case scenario more. It's become an environment where nobody is comfortable.
We're standing outside of the Islamic Society of Utah. His boss was attacked by an arsonist.
Been a long time.
I was like, no, we were sitting there for a while. We know, I know that's why we were asking him. Appointment or something, so I come and see Dr. Smith and see what we have. She said, see my friends around here. I guess they haven't watched.
It's kind of important that you get back on the medication.
Oh boy.
Oh boy.
Oh boy!
Discover the new language of travel. Oh boy. Marriott Bonvoy. 30 hotel brands, endless experiences, rewards.
Last week. During the 8 years of the Obama presidency, more guns were sold in this country than ever before. Today, we've come here, the largest independently owned gun store in America, to learn about the future of guns.
By the 11th of April, can get themselves. These things are assault rifles. I've said, what do you think the deer's going to do? Shoot back?
The deer?
What?
It's tough nut. Who owns tough nut, mate?
It's
really,
like a
it's no wonder
joke.
you like cows. No wonder you're so brave, isn't it?
Just say you're scared.
Simple.
It's like simple. Chill out. It's
I'm
scary. Say
viewed
it.
as a
Let me.
hero by those who are pro-gun, and I'm viewed as a villain by those who are anti-gun. I have a chain of gun stores called Gun City. I started in 1978. What's so neat about the firearms industry? Number one, you're dealing with a really classy citizen, okay? He's not coming to me because he's got a broken car or a broken tooth. He's coming to me because he's worked so hard that he's got a bit of disposable income and he wants to have something he can go and have fun with. Well, how much fun is it to help someone have fun? This particular law is drafted and given 2 days. 2 days for submission. We all know there's a physical impossibility for them to have read and digested 12,000 submissions by the time it's going to Parliament next week. I don't doubt that if we had the legal cleverness, the financial muscle of the NRA, that this
It's like wrap it up.
trampling of our rights wouldn't be going on. Like, how many of those 250,000 licensed firearms owners are going to stand in front of a camera or stand in front of a select committee? I tell you, hardly any of them. You know, Jacinda Ardern, Judith Collins, you'll win. You'll walk over them because they're just nice people and they'll do what they're told. But I'm not going to let you walk over them. I'm going to tell everybody that you're bullies and that you're unjust. I'm someone who thinks that it sucks to watch a bully beating up on others.
Events like this, these are not things New Zealand has ever experienced before. These kind of things don't happen here where we live. Now, we are a place that is peaceful, diverse, that has over 200 ethnicities and 160 different languages, and we celebrate that. And so for something like this to have happened here in our country, this is completely alien to us. Shall I take that one first, please? How am I? Thank you for asking. I'm very sad. You know some of the young people who lost their lives on Friday. Their names and their stories that we need to keep telling. And it's them that we need to honour. Yes, there will be interest in the terrorist who did this. But if I could request one thing, don't say his name. Don't dwell on who he is.
The government has now got an amendment bill to the Arms Act. So this is a bill to bring about changes around semi-automatic firearms. I think this the short time frame gives them this ability to get their gun buyers or ammunition buyers to influence Parliament.
It normally takes about 6 months to make a law, but doing it in 9 days before politicians go on their Easter break is starting to look more like political theatre than public safety.
You can get 130 rounds in a magazine. They're like a round thing, like a Gatling gun. That stuff being sold, no, Madam Speaker, that's not okay for New Zealand, and we will stand against it.
What do you say about concerns that the gun reform is moving quickly? I'm interested that what's being picked up here is the process rather than the substance. If there were suggestions that we shouldn't be banning attack rifles or military-style automatic weapons, I'd like to hear those arguments.
We don't have a Second Amendment. We don't have a constitutional right to keep and bear arms like the US. But at the same time, we don't have the polarised debate on guns that the US does.
When you look at there, though, straight down in the gully, you can see them with the naked eye.
New Zealand has very much a village mentality. We're a small country. We're a country of 4.5 million people. We are almost unique in that we don't have big game predators. Mankind is the predator. The management tool for that wild animal control is the high capacity centerfire semi-automatic rifle. But firearms for self-defence isn't really part of our culture. The NRA made the process of firearms users in New Zealand by lobbying the New Zealand government. It would polarise the debate. We don't want to polarise the debate. We want to stay moderate and work on solutions and work on maintaining that social licence.
for people like us, it's our life. It's what we do. It's our job. It's our business. It's our recreation and our pastime. And it's our life, really. And we don't want to lose that.
So today is the public hearing. So we've had around 4,500 email submissions through in the last day or so. Just only some people have been invited to come and give submissions, and they are the major stakeholders, particularly those who have been involved in the gun industry, lobby groups, and also gun sellers coming in today.
Righty, guys. The most important thing that we achieved today is that we're the reasonable and intelligent side of the debate. We can't get angry at them, and we can't sound like nutcases. It's actually quite a privilege for our opinion to have been asked for the first time ever in 40 years. Usually they look on a gun dealer as simply a money grabber willing to do anything.
Mr. Paul, you sold the gun, 4 guns. How's that sitting on your conscience? What's your message to the government today?
At your last press conference, you refused to answer questions that you said were gun debate questions, but you said you'd be happy to discuss them later. Is this not the later time that you can discuss it?
I do not believe my comments will be fairly treated by your channel. And if anyone's in any doubt, look at the coverage on the first day. When you spread terror, you are terrorists.
Excuse me, sorry. Are you accusing yourself of spreading terror?
Yes.
Have you had any media training?
Pardon me?
Have you had any media training for the last
40 years of it. Go on. Underestimate me. That'll be fun.
We have a very important piece of legislation to consider in front of us. We'll get started straight away.
Good morning, my name's Joe Green. I chair the Firearm Safety Council of Aotearoa, New Zealand. We expressed concern about the speed that the amendment's been introduced.
The photo of 74 Uzis imported by a collector on the idea that these were to be used for props. These were all operable firearms.
Hunting and Fishing New Zealand broadly support the purpose of the Arms Amendment Act.
Whatever reasons might be brought to bear for not supporting this legislation can never outweigh the 50 reasons we carry with us today.
Our next submission is from Gun City. We have David Tipple and Nicholas Hale.
Rushing this good field law is causing division. It is bad law, and it will result in serious injustices. It takes away rights that don't need to be taken. There are livelihoods at stake here. Some contractors can't afford the next gun until the seized gun is paid for.
So, Mr. Tipple, thanks for coming today in your submission. So, do you believe that to buy ammunition, one should have to have a firearms license?
Yes, and that's the laws.
And magazines?
And magazines, I believe that large capacity magazines should always have been regulated, and they were not.
And they were not? And you believe that they should have?
Now we can see they should have. This person turned his A category semi-automatic into an E category by illegally fitting the large magazine.
Which he got from?
Not from us.
Not from you?
No.
You're sitting here facing the people who just submitted to us before you heard. How would you go about
explaining and justifying that the right to own these military-style semi-automatic weapons, I think, states that your right to sell and profit from them is a more important right than their right to feel safe and away from protect.
Well, it's very clear, Michael. Nobody will ever be completely safe from a lone madman who is determined to cause murder. This wasn't about killing people. This was about dividing people.
You do not think the attack was about killing people?
I think that his motive, as he stated in his manifesto, was about causing division, and he most certainly used killing people to do it, but he said that he could have killed more people with other devices.
David Tipple says it could cost the government up to $700 million. Would you be prepared for that?
Forgive me for not taking advice from David Tipple. Again, we have a quantum, a range that's being provided. Again, the point is, regardless of the number that are in circulation, our goal is to get as many as we can out of circulation.
In an unprecedented court appearance 3 weeks after the attacks, Brenton Tarrant was beamed into the High Court in Christchurch via audio-visual link. For many families of the victims, it was their first opportunity to see the 28-year-old accused gunman.